Jiggy next time. Okay, I wanted to share a handful of thoughts and my feelings on an aspect of this matter. There we go. Speaking in question of the way it's like when you're just out there with people, and it's very frustrating to not just want to, just say, hold on, here's X, Y, and Z things going on, right? We're living in a time that is very much designed with censorship and the especially the collective manner of which it affects women, because this censorship affects men differently. I notice kind of the same but differently, right? Because it becomes very interesting when I hear other people going through the same feelings, being censored, like not just on the internet, but just like the way you're dismissed as a serious person, just in regular, real public life, right? And it gives us this very distinct impression that impression or threat, or perhaps even a certainty, and sometimes it is. I've crossed boundaries. I have been shown boundaries that I have not crossed, but know that they're there. Not every boundary is meant to be like, don't take one more step. You don't do that every single time, right? We hear plenty of memes and wisdoms about needing to push limits and stuff because it's what you need for you, and that you're going to not hurt anyone else intentionally, but we also can't live in a static world, and etc., etc. All that's true, and we cross that line as a practice in left-hand path psychology. Thus, it is part of the sympathetic magic of left-hand path work, right? Because the line is inherently right-hand path, right? It creates definition and distinction. It holds space. Left-hand path wants to transgress on those things. But left-hand path doesn't have the foresight of seeing itself until you've done your own personal integration, right? And I think that every time we get these character stories where one story is about, where you watch a character go from having a certain way of behavior to a certain way of behavior, it's very common in the Marvel superhero storytelling style, that you see this because there's a bigger emphasis on characters being flawed. There's a microcosm and a macrocosm with the differences between the personal issues we have and the non-personal issues that we have. right? And these are the things that build aspects of our internal and our external worlds. And so when I'm reading Heidegger's Being and Time, and it talks, there was this amazing explanation that he's going through in one of the chapters I've not too long ago read about when Dasein gets confronts the world at large, which is basically to say when the existential that is not part of your world, not part of your immediate things that make up the whole of your conscious existence, when those things that exist in all of reality happen because perhaps you've left the room, perhaps something has entered the room, so on and so forth, right? And then it changes the circumstances in a dramatic way where you've now come to rationalize this thing is not true, and something changes in your nervous system because you're changing your entire relationship with your environment, right? And we feel violated by this. You see, when what Heidegger is pointing out, that this is what happens when you don't do the shadow work integration process, right? When you don't do that, when you step into the world, you get consumed by it, and all of a sudden it didn't matter that conversation that you had with your friend, when you were just hanging out, you and him. Didn't matter whatsoever out there in public. Both you guys will just go, yeah, there's nothing to that conspiracy theory. And it's just like, and then you're like, what just fucking happened? What just fucking happened? Right? And it's just like, you being who you are wasn't strong enough to reinforce the rational judgment you're able to put upon the other person, who now you're not sure if, man, have I really won him over? Was he just fucking humoring me? I mean, yeah, anybody can say, well, come on, the normies aren't ready for that. But you also could have just said nothing. But why did you say that? And the reason why, he said that is because he doesn't know who he is as well as you do. Not know who he is, but know who you are. Knowing thyself, right? I, kept this strong sense of self for myself, Aries. Sun, Aries, very Sun, Aries fucking quality. Sorry, it's true. It's, the things that make it true in my Vedic chart are different, but that's still the truth in a Western chart. It's funny how both sides are true, even though they're coming at different angles, and one angle is obviously not the angle you see when you look at it in the sky. But somehow, the reading still works. Shrug, shrug. All right. And, that's because he's just a being that's going through experiences and emotions, and that's it, right? Probably a young soul. And the young soul's getting exploited and abused in a time where that young soul's given a lot of power to work within the system to hurt you because you were trying to help. Because they built a world where everything you do that tries to help them, because it inherently also fucks with the way that they like to exploit people for their growth, their ends, their means, their, or at the very least their belief in the lie, the belief in the illusion of why we do what we do, are loyal to what we're loyal to, trust who we trust. The entirety of your world, your were-auld, your Dasein, your state of being, right? It's just, you know, that's why everybody was talking about the 100th monkey thing, and then somebody saying, but the 100th monkey was debunked. But no, but it really wasn't debunked. Look, like, we just didn't do our end of the 100th monkey very well. It got sloppy. It got real fucking sloppy in 2017. It got fucking sloppy as fuck. And the rise in consciousness basically had this 1 year period where it was lockstep in a direction. And then everybody decided to take a nosedive. And so the consciousness went down. Because everybody jumped the gun on everything, and everything, every form of babble on the internet, right? This is what Thomas Sheridan talks about, is the emergence of Khorasan from the cybernetic unconscious of Western civilization, and also being influenced by Eastern civilization psyops in a language we don't understand, with computer programming technology we don't understand. And definitely from a place of economic strength on the global stage, on the internet versus us. Right? And whether you were a globalist or some sort of supremacist, somebody who basically is in line with, from what I understand, is mainline China's kind of Chinese supremacy of a particular race of Chinese within their racist substructures. You know, this is part of the reason why, like, they have the problem with the Uyghur peoples and all that. You know, it's all baked into this cake, as it were, right? So you have to listen, and you at the very least have to have a certain level of a baseline care. Like, you have to look at what's going on with their world, and, you know, what they like to talk about, and without ever showing your hand, but you know, but never lying to yourself or to them. You let your thoughts and feelings, your attitudes, your beliefs about it come up in almost vague terms. You know? And then seeing what's up behind that. You know, like, being conspiracy theorists is part of how I learned how to do all these things to transform myself and improve upon myself. And my Leo qualities fucking love that, because, hey, look, Zeralath has something to show off about. Something that makes most of the things he does actually, like, a little bit impressive. I'm not used to that. And but I think probably everybody who's gone and done this, because it's not like I'm the first fucking guy to say, wait a minute, if I do this, I'll not be fat. Right, plenty of people have done this. Watching other people do it is part of what my imagination was, going into it. It's just a question of, was my mind going to commit to it? I made it work with my time that I had on my hands. And so you've got to hold your world, you got to protect your world, and you gotta remember that everybody in their own little way is going through that. It may have nothing to do with them just having a completely bullshit or contrary to your conspiracy theory that they can't just like openly fucking share, which is going to naturally happen with those of us in the major collective cults of liberalism and conservatism and their derivative republicanism and democratism. We just need to, we need to let all that shit go, and really work in your head about, like, I have this thing that happens. I think it's my Mercury in Pisces that lets me do this. It's very strongly placed because it's in my Vedic chart too. Like my daydreaming side, if you will, it's always running these fucking conversations. I have these conversations in my fucking head. Like spoken words in my head between two characters or myself and someone else. Constantly running, right? A lot of times it's like arguments or fights I wish I had instead of having the resolve or the fear to not. Sometimes I was afraid, or sometimes I did it out of restraint. And asking myself, how do I, there's a lot of times where I made the wrong choice. I made the wrong choice so many times inside my heart, it was killing me. And there were some wrong choices I made in 2020 that can never be undone. That forced me to reconcile limitations that I wasn't letting hold me back until the serpent squeezed a little harder around my world. Certainly broke my heart. And I almost wanted to embrace villainy because of it. That's the trap, right? That's the, when your world is threatened in such a way and the romance about an idea is gone, that's when you turn into violent radical, because you just can't accept it. And depending on what that it is, you may have a good reason to not accept it. My changes did come from wanting to not accept certain truths. And, I want to fucking fight about it. Right? Not that I want to go proactively, start a fight, let's go to war. Just like, now I just like I want to hold my own next time. It's just like, they pull another 2020 type of thing off, I don't want somebody to be so brave next time they try and 6 feet away me. That's what's going through my heart. Fuck my head at this point. It's what's going through my heart. Let's listen to that from now on, huh? And so that's part of the work. Because as much as I do want to live in a cabin in the woods with a modest amount of electricity and water, I'm a fucking social creature. Because, there's a social level that people with terrible beliefs, they can get along just fine as long as we don't talk about our private bullshit. And you know what? We have to calm the fuck down a little bit about conspiracy theories, because it is a First Amendment right to be in a lawful conspiracy, right? The First Amendment and the Second Amendment are supposed to be a acknowledgement. It's not, the right's there whether it's acknowledged or not. It's an acknowledgement of the eternal right of, I can get together with whoever I want and we can defend something we care about together. People that don't see it that way, I might have to go to war with them. Because that's a fundamental, what is the status quo of peace and our relationship to each other in society. So even though, as a conspiracy theorist person, like everybody else growing up through this time where we're going through such the suffering of people and their ignorance, and they're hurting themselves, they're hurting other people, and we grew a certain kind of superiority complex. Now we're seeing a lot of arrogance overflow. And that's why people don't like guys like Andrew Tate, because he is an arrogance overflow of this response to the counter to this abuse. We watch people abuse themselves, and they take it as abuse that we're trying to just tell them, dude, like, seriously, emergency here as a society. I care a little bit. You are asking the government to threaten to take away more of my money to pay for your diabetes. So can we talk about your sugar now? Because I have a right to talk about that if I have to pay for it. And that's the cost. And we're an emotional country as a cancer country. That's the fucking cost. We're going to have to handle this a lot more deep wound stuff. Anyway. So go ahead and just keep doing good within the world. Hold your own, and as long as the universe still got your back, there ain't nothing to get violent about. Unless somebody loses faith in that and is violent upon you, then by all means may fists fly. Catch you later.